Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 37th episode of the Manor Podcast. I'm your co-host, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other co-host, Michael Hamilton. Michael, life comes at you fast, doesn't it? You know, one day you think you're playing Botlyn, and then you're an Iyslander. And, a lot can change in 24 hours, you know?
Yeah, it seems like, I guess somehow the deck that wants heroes to block them with attack actions is bad against the deck that wants to block with their non-attack actions. Is that kind of what happened?
For four, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just beats you up, and then you get no time, and then you die.
Yeah, they attack you with their attack actions. They block you with their non-attack actions. It's not fair for poor Botlyn.
Yeah. I was just like, I said this in the Wolfpack Discord, but my brain was going back to like Orlando in 15 months ago. And it's like, oh yeah, I just like crushed Briar all weekend. Like clearly the deck has not changed in 15 months from Lightning Briar to whatever it is now. They still have like 9 ball lightnings in their deck, right?
No.
Plus 3 lightning press?
No.
They have cards that block now?
They do block now. They have a lot of 4 blocks in their deck. I think they have, I think the minimum I've seen in a list is 9.
Unlucky.
Plus they might board in D-Reacts against you. It's just tough.
Yeah. So I guess before we reveal the main topic episode, though, I want everybody to look to their left and then look to their right and then look in a mirror and then realize that only 50% of our listeners have subscribed to this channel. And we're at like 916 subscribers right now. And when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to give away cool stuff. We're going to do a special episode of the podcast where we talk about special things for 1,000 subscribers, and it'll be a wonderful celebration of 1,000 YouTube subscribers. So make sure you're doing your part.
Did you say 50% of our listeners are subscribed?
That's what our YouTube analytics says.
That's actually like a really good conversion rate. I feel like most things have like way worse than 50%.
I want like 90%.
Everybody needs to subscribe. Why are you listening if you're not subscribed, honestly? Is that what's going
on? Dedicated listener base that is at least subscribed on YouTube. I'm not asking them to give us money on Patreon. I'll take like a 50% conversion rate to Patreon, but it's free 99 to hit that subscribe button. You see that little subscribe button right down here? You can just click it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. I will make sure to do that.
You're a wonderful person, whoever just subscribed, and I hope nothing but positive things for you.
So, no Botlyn, right?
No. So now we're both going to be Iyslander brothers again.
We're back. Crazy how so many things change, but nothing changes.
Yeah, we're just playing a little bit worse Iyslander. I kind of like how this is all working out, by the way. It's going to be the 3rd Titanic thumbnail in a row. Because, there was Jack and Rose on the Titanic, happy as can be on top of the meta. Then they were in the ocean, banned. And now we're playing old lady, crippled Iyslander as she tosses the heart jewel into the ocean. And so that's going to be the thumbnail this week. I've already decided. So, as long as I could keep, I don't know why we got on this Titanic train, I guess boat. But here we are.
The ship is sailed. The ship is sailing. Something.
Yeah. Until it sinks, I guess.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie.
You haven't seen that movie?
Nope.
That might have been the first pair of boobs 12-year-old Roger ever saw in his life.
There's nudity in the movie?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard the meme, draw me like one of your French girls or whatever?
I have heard that.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
That's from Titanic, because Rose says to Jack, oh, draw me like one of your French girls, Jack. Because he draws nude French girls. And so she gets naked on a couch. And then he draws her. And I like the ones where it's just like they edit it and then it's just like a stick figure with like boobies on a couch. It's like it's one of my favorite like gifs of all time. I don't know why. It's just really funny to me.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, Iyslander. So we're gonna play some ice cards in our Iyslander deck, I think.
Yeah.
Not Amulet of Ice.
Not Amulet of Ice, not Hypothermia, but some other ice cards.
Yeah. So what are we thinking about replacing those cards with?
So my initial thoughts. This is what I tested with and decided was bad. I was like, hypothermia is some sideboard card for some matchups. We can just find some other high valued sideboard card. And I landed on Command and Conquer. I think it's good against Lexi. I think it's good against Dromai because it's a popper. And probably not playing it against anyone else. Maybe you play it against 5, but it's not great there. It's fine. But
Okay.
have played 0 games in a Dromai or Lexi since adding that to my deck. I think it's locked. I think it's in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I'm on Command and Conquer too. I could see playing it into Boomer Bravo, and maybe Old Time, depending on what the cuts are from the main list as well. Sometimes they're playing defense reactions against us, and I think there's an argument to play more than 60 against Old Time as well. So I'm still working out the exact details of how I want to sideboard out these matches, but I could see it coming in potentially against the Guardians as well. But I definitely don't like it against like a deck like Briar, because it's too easy, as we were saying, for Briar to just block it with, a non-attack action for 4, and then like Grasp of the Arknight, and it just covers up your Command and Conquer, and they just move on with their life without really giving you too much of anything, really. And most of the time they're playing Crown of Providence too these days, so they just have like multiple ways to just stuff that card.
Yep. So I think that was the first edition. Then Amulet Device is a little bit harder to replace. I tried Blue Winter's Bite, and that card's underwhelming. There's a reason it didn't make the deck before.
Yeah, that's interesting to me, because I think this is going to be one of the spots where we're going to disagree on first. I'm still pretty happy with Blue Winter's Bite. I've been really happy with how it's performed overall. I guess maybe it's like a little bit more contextual, because I guess maybe spoilers, but the last card you've also been testing has been like Red Sigil of Solace for the life gain, because it's just hard for Iyslander to use a lot of our cards sometimes. But I've basically replaced Amulet of Ice with Red Winter's Bite, and I guess the combination of Winter's Bites I think play really well with each other, because then you can play like a Red Winter's Bite into activate Coronet Peak, like it's just like a clean 2-card hand, arsenal the Blue Winter's Bite, and then on your opponent's turn just strip their last card as soon as they do anything. And it's just like a very clean way to like I said, strip their hand and deny them 3 cards across just one turn cycle. So I don't know. You also have less hand rip in general, obviously, without Amulet of Ice, and Iyslander is just a deck that needs to be bringing her opponents like down to our level, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, down to the level where Wounded Bull is a good card.
Yeah. And I also like, just playing Blue Winter's Bite, attacking with Wounded Bull, just stripping a card and then forcing them to decide whether or not they want to block. It's just clean, and giving you 6 Winter's Bites just gives you more opportunities for that line to come up.
Yeah, the Blue Winter's Bite into attacking with an attack action, I think, is where that card shines, still shines there, I guess. The issue is when you have it and you have like an Ice Vein or something that you want to be doing, or you wanted to play a card in Coronet Peak or something like that. So that doesn't really work, because if you play your Blue Winter's Bite and they pitch a yellow or a blue, they'll have resources floating, so you can't really waiting with them, you can't really Coronet Peak them, you can't really even deal arcane damage, because they're going to have the floating resources anyway to arcane barrier. And that just like, well, you can, but it's just like inherently taking away quite a bit of value from the whole card that you're playing as this Blue Winter's Bite.
So Blue Winter's Bite, I guess, like I don't ever like, I'll usually like block with 2 cards, play Winter's Bite, and then arsenal my last card just to get that one hand strip out of my opponent's hand. Or I guess you activate Coronet Peak, but it also lets you just like, if you had to block with Coronet Peak at the end game, it just lets you still get that Coronet Peak effect. And sometimes your opponent will like pitch a red if they just don't have it, if they're just like stuck on reds, or they'll discard a card. And then when you activate Coronet Peak, it's just like backbreaking. It doesn't come up very often, but obviously when it does, it's just like insane value.
Trading like your card for a card is insane value.
In Iyslander, yeah, dude, because you're taking away all their good cards. They need to like be more than the sum of their parts, especially in a deck like Briar. And then you just like, here's my at rate cards. I'm like, oh no, my cards aren't usually at rate. I'm attacking with Engulfing Lights. And you're like, aha, I did it.
I think so. I guess the problem with that is you kind of like in order for that play pattern to come up, you'd have to keep the blue Winter's Bite and another blue to activate Coronet Peak. And so you play the Winter's Bite, and suddenly they pitch a yellow. Well, your other blue isn't doing anything now.
True. Yeah. Then you would just look to Arsenal that card most of the time.
Sure, but I guess most of the time I would rather Arsenal a card than Coronet Peak them anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it doesn't come up a lot.
Even if they pitch a red.
I'm just talking about like niche benefits, I guess, to it.
Sure. So I was very underwhelmed with Blue Winter's Bite. And all those issues are like, before we even mention the fact that most people play Final Spring Tunic against you, and sometimes you just have a Tunic with 3 counters, and your Winter's Bite is a textless block too.
Yeah. But I guess the red Winter's Bite in particular is nice because it gives us a red ice card. And now that we don't have like hypothermia to slow down some of our like more aggressive opponents, we kind of need to lean on Channel Lake Frigid a little bit harder, I think, especially in a deck like against Dash. And being able to a little bit more consistently keep that card around for 2 turn cycles helps a lot. So that's the other like benefit of having just like a red ice card in your deck. And that's originally why in the calling list I also had red Aetherhail. Red Aetherhail was a card I just most of the time just used to spend my Tunic counter on Arsenal, my last card. It wasn't super amazing. It blocked 3. I was just like meh. But I think red Winter's Bite kind of just smooths out a lot of the issues I was having with newer Iyslander.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, the reason that I was playing red Sigil of Solace is it lets you play multiple, like several card hands, like 4 card hands more easily. And it seems like red Winter's Bite accomplishes everything I was trying to do with Sigil of Solace, while also being an ice card for ice fusion reasons and potential Channel Lake Frigid reasons. So I think I'm on board with red Winter's Bite. And on top of that, it also blocks too. But most of the time, I assume you're recasting it, not blocking with it.
You have to be stopping some pretty good on hits in order to block, but at least having the option to block with the card should that come up is nice. Where you can just never stop an on hit with Sigil. You just get your 3 life and move on.
I guess it's worse on turn 0, but basically any other time in the game, the Winter's Bite should be better. So yeah, makes sense to me. I like that. I'll probably play some games with it before Indianapolis and probably end up with it in my deck unless I find something that I currently can't think of as a reason not to play it.
That's fair. So talk to me about yellow Aether Ice Vein. How are you feeling about that card lately?
You need Waste Trigger Insidious Chill. You don't need Waste Trigger Amulet of Ice anymore.
See, that's interesting to me because like I feel like Ice Fuse is more of a premium, I guess, since we only have so many strips after we set up Insidious Chill. So in my mind, to an extent, I kind of want less Ice Fuse cards since it's not an optional trigger. It's a forced trigger. So it's more of a thing where when you are trying to set it up and go for it, you really want to go for it. And that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to... I think I'm on board with 1 yellow Aether Ice Vein. I don't know if I'm going to go above that.
Yeah, I could see cutting down to 1. I'm not super attached to having 2 copies of it. Though I will say I've lost a lot more games with 1 or 2 unused Insidious Chill triggers than I've lost games that I've triggered Insidious Chill 3 times.
That's fair. Most of the time, I'm not even playing Insidious Chill against like the aggressive decks, and I guess like that's where I'm most wanting yellow Aether Ice Vein anyways. So I guess I'm just thinking more so, I guess in the matchups where I'm even cutting yellow Aether Ice Vein, where I'm expecting my opponent to have like potential AB 3 or 4, playing Oasis Respites and things like that. So like the Guardians, deck like Dash, I think yellow Aether Ice Vein is pretty bad against since they can play AB 4 pretty happily into you. And there's just a few other like deck situations where I'm just not super happy with it.
Yeah. And it's like especially awkward if they have AB4 and you have an Insidious Chill trigger in play or an Insidious Chill in play. Because like then suddenly if you play it, they cleanly answer it by pitching 2 blues and the Insidious Chill trigger, and you spend 2 cards and Insidious Chill counter for 2 of their cards. It's like a horrible deal.
Yeah, I would say it's actually probably worth it at that point to just not fuse the card. Just play your 3 for 4 arcane damage.
Yeah, I think in those situations, almost always just like if you had like if they surprised you with AB4, maybe you played against a Reinar and didn't expect them to have AB4 or something. I don't know. And at that point, just hopefully you can block with the card.
Yeah, for sure. And then in its place, I think I want one Channel the Bleak Expanse. I guess like so. Now that we talked about like everything that we're on board with, or I think things we mostly agree in, I think this is going to be more of the spicy parts of the episode because I'm looking to play one or two like tech cards that like give me some better equity into certain scenarios. I really like Channel the Bleak Expanse in this meta. One, because I think it's very good against Briar, especially, and potentially even, I guess you wouldn't know this ahead of time, and I probably wouldn't play it into Guardians Blind, but if you know somehow you're scouted and they're on like Royal, or Earthwar Bounty Guardian style decks, it's good into them. But against Briar, like playing Tome of Harvest, like if they play Tome of Harvest and you play the Channel of the Bleak Expanse, they're very sad, obviously. If they play Sonata Arcanics, dumping some resource into it, you play Channel of the Bleak Expanse, they're very sad about it. I just think it has enough spots where it's relevant. And then in addition to that, I actually kind of really like it in the mirror. But I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I haven't played with it in the mirror. It seems pretty awkward to me. Like, when are you looking to cast it in the mirror?
I would think it just functions kind of like a Channel like Frigid in the end game, where it protects you from just dying out of nowhere. Because if most of the time it's going to come down to we're both sitting on some Insidious Chills. It probably used to matter a lot more with Amulets of Ice, but I can still see it mattering now. Or playing Ice Eternal, setting up the Frost-Hex combo. It just lets you not die to that on your turn. And then when it goes away at the end of your turn, you're the first person then who would get the crack at, Frost-Hexing, Insidious Chilling, and Ice Eternaling them. So that's kind of the spot I'd see it being good in.
Yeah, I guess I kind of feel like you don't get the first crack at it because it goes to their turn when you do it, and then, or when it goes away, and they're like, okay, I'll fuse my Aether Ice Vein now and trigger my Insidious Chills.
Okay, and then you just crack your boots and play at instant speed on top of them because there's no more Amulets of Ice for them to crack.
I guess I haven't played a mirror without Amulet of Ice yet, so
I think losing Amulet of Ice in the mirror makes the matchup just way more snowbally. But I haven't played him. This is all like theory in my mind, but I just think losing Amulet of Ice makes the mirror just, like I said, more snowbally, because that was just like what was so important about Amulet of Ice in the end game, where if your opponent cracks their Stormstriders, you just get to come in and just go like, okay, you're cracking your Stormstriders. That's cute. I'm going to activate my Amulets of Ice. You don't have a hand anymore or anything to cast. Mm-hmm. Where now, if your opponent cracks Stormstriders and you want to stop them, you'll have to crack your Stormstriders and refuse another card if you have Insidious Chill triggers left, and if you can even do that. And that just seems like a very weird technical play that I don't see coming up very often. So I don't know.
Yeah, it could happen on the back of energy potions, I guess, but it'd be really like if you're pitching a blue to play Aether Ice Vein, then you're going to 3 cards in hand. You pitch a blue to activate Stormstriders. Then if your last card is a blue ice card and Aether Ice Vein, you're still a resource short of being able to cast another one and fuse it. So you'd have to E-pot that, and then you could E-pot that, I guess, and then do it. But it sounds convoluted and not very likely to be like a real, I don't want to say a real line, but a real line.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think losing Amulet of Ice, also like you can't do the classic hide your Amulets of Ice behind your energy potions, there are lots of angle shooters out there who would, not very cleanly set up their battlefields and like say like, oh yeah, I just have these E-pots over here. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'll crack my E-pots. You're like, oh yeah, I got you. I'll activate my Amulets of Ice in response. And you're like, nobody appreciated that play. It just wasn't fun for anybody involved. So just less cluttered battlefield, I think, will make for cleaner mirrors overall.
Nothing was hidden.
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you saying you're an angle shooter like that, Michael? I wasn't. I didn't say you did it. I just said, it's a cleaner interaction overall. I'm not accusing. I would never accuse you of that, Michael.
So anyway, one
So yeah,
thing
Chain
that
of the. Oh, go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say, one thing that can be said about Chain of the Bleak Expanse is there's definitely times in the Iyslander mirror where no one's like doing anything. You're kind of like just looking at each other, like doing nothing, and like the fact that that can happen sometimes means you will sometimes have windows to cast this card where it's not like actively hurting you.
Yeah, and it's still just like a one cost card, so it's clean to just like cast your opponent's like on your opponent's turn and then activate Waning Moon if like their shields are down or something like that. So I don't know. I think it'll have its spots, and I think it's like I said. I think it's also good into Briar if you set it up, and I don't think it's a card also that you should get married to in your arsenal for that reason. Like if like a turn cycle goes by, you have a new card you want to arsenal, but you're not getting like good value out of it. Just play it, give them a frostbite, activate your Waning Moon, and move on. I just don't let it like don't look for the insane blowouts for it every time. Just if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, don't I guess play the entire game around it. I don't think that's really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it used to be a card that I thought was like reasonable in Defy as well because he had Belittle and Art of War, but now with Belittle gone, I don't know if you can really
Yeah, I
play
don't
it
think
that
I'd play
much.
Notify.
Stopping 2 cards off Art of War, which is supposed to be their biggest turn of the game, and then they lose 2 cards, is really big. But you can't really sit on it in Arsenal while you wait for an Art of War. You just like have to be very lucky to line it up against the Art of War since they have 3 Art of Wars. Like most turns are not going to be an Art of War turn, so who knows how long it has to sit there.
Yeah, it also stops Mask of the Pouncing Links because they're probably playing that into you instead of Mask of Momentum. So
Sure.
they go to crack it. The trigger's on the stack for them to activate it. You channel them, but that seems like a lot of things have to line up for that to happen, I guess. And every other opportunity in the game, it just seems like it's not really going to do very much for you. And it's a 2 block, so.
I think this conversation will look really nice when like we see in the top 8 you channel the Bleak Expansify in response to their stuff and blow them out.
We're just leveling people like we would never play Channel the Bleak Expanse into a 5. Why would we? And then,
never.
okay. So yeah, are you a believer in Channel the Bleak Expanse? Have I made my case, or are you still off it?
I don't think I still don't think I'm on it because I think it might have times where it's okay in the mirror.
Mm.
I think it has times where it's very good against Briar, but those times are specifically Tome of Harvest. I think if they just Sonata for 0 and you channel the Bleak Expanse, it's not really like a great exchange for you. It's fine, but like it's like the same as if they missed off their Sonata.
Yeah, but Sonata's always hit, right? So that's why they play it, because it always draws them a card and deals a point of arcade.
You spend a card and a resource to counter one of their cards and give them a frostbite. It doesn't seem like, I don't know. I guess like if you're looking for your 79th or 80th card and all the other cards are worse than that, it's better than some of the cards you could play. So
yeah, that's fair. Maybe I won't even play it in a Briar. Who knows? That's why we're talking this through. This is why we're working this out in real time. You know, maybe I won't even have it in my deck. Maybe I will. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe you'll be on Botlyn. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe I'll just cry myself to sleep, and then I'll realize this is just what I have backed myself into now. But I'll probably still play Iyslander. The last card that I think that I kind of want to tech for, and I guess I'm worried about like if Drow might start packing Thaw or like this Fatigue Oldheim that has the Warhorn, where people start trying to like blow, or like even like Viscerai or like these Rune Blades, if they try to like go for this fatigue strategy and start just like attacking our Frost hexes. What do you think about like 1 tech Remembrance?
I hate Remembrance.
I know you do. I know you hate Remembrance.
It is not a card I want in my deck. I would not say I would never put a Remembrance in my deck. I don't tend to talk in absolutes, but
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
It would have to be. Yeah, I don't even get that reference, but
it's a Star Wars reference.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Anyway, I think if the metagame is like so hostile towards Iyslander that your Frost Hexes are being attacked this aggressively, then you should probably just be playing a different hero. If everyone's ready and prepared to fatigue you through Frost Hex combo, then it's probably not a good tournament to play Iyslander at. I think like after the bans, I think she is not going to be nearly as popular as she was before. And I think appropriately people will, I think it's appropriate for there to be less like sideboard decisions made with like specifically for Iyslander, like these cards that are only good into Iyslander, like whatever the Runeblade one is that blows up some enchantments.
Looming Doom, right?
No, that's the blue one. That turns your rune chance into damage.
Runic Reclamation. No. Runic Reclamation can't blow up Frost Hex, though.
Not Runic Reclamation. The new one that makes both players stack an enchantment.
I thought that's Looming Doom.
No, Looming Doom is the blue 3 block that turns all your rune chance into 2 damage.
Diabolic.
Something
diabolic.
Yeah, that one. If they're all playing that one and have AB3 and are ready to fatigue you, then Iyslander's probably just not. It's not a weekend for Iyslander, I think.
You don't think just like one Remembrance just fixes that though?
Well, if you sit down against a Briar, are you putting a Remembrance in your deck?
No.
Well, if you sit down against a Viscera, are you putting a Remembrance in your deck?
Maybe the matchup's very good.
It's so good that you can just put Remembrance in anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think like if deck lists are open, if the whole tournament's open deck list, I could definitely see registering one Remembrance and then just like having it there when you need it. When you see these people that are like have their sideboard devoted to beating Iyslander, but I don't think with closed deck lists you can really afford to play Remembrance in most of the matchups, even against Oldheim. If they're just like a more aggressively slanted Oldheim, since I think the 2 ways that you can take Oldheim are extremely aggressive and extremely defensive, and you don't want Remembrance against the aggressive versions of Oldheim.
That's fair. I guess I'm not really worried that much about the aggressive versions of Oldheim. Maybe I should be more worried about them than I am the fatiguey versions of Oldheim.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Both versions definitely have the tools to beat Iyslander if that's what they want to beat. So don't feel great about, well, I don't know. Maybe it's better for Iyslander now that they don't have Whale. But before, I think like Oldheim had the tools to beat Iyslander if that was the matchup he wanted to beat.
Yeah. And I guess we're going to Winner's Whale. What? I know I've learned this lesson before, but I'm still thinking about playing Oasis Respite. I know I've played it, and every time I put it in my deck, I'm like, this card seems underwhelming. And right now, I'm like, maybe I should play some Oasis Respites.
What?
I don't know.
What are you looking to use Oasis Respite on?
On big, scary dominate attacks that are big and scary, and doing a lot of things. Pummel CNC, you know?
Yeah. So you'd be Oasis Respiting against the Guardians?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love it, but I think it's like not the, I don't know. You're getting kind of like bad value on your card. I think you're probably better off just playing more 0 for 4s like Fate Foreseens rather than Oasis Respite. And it's worse against Dominate when it's in your hand, and it's worse against CNC. But outside of that, it's just reasonably better, reasonably more efficient.
Wait, why is it worse than Dominate when it's in your hand?
If they dominate a card and you have Fate Foreseen in your hand, then...
Oh, I thought you were saying Oasis Respite when they have it. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So, but in any situation other than that, just the Fate Foreseen, the more efficient 0 for 4 is just better, right? So those 2 situations have to be like happening often enough that you want the Oasis Respite.
It's also better in the mirror. Like I could play like one Oasis Respite in the mirror and feel a lot better that I won't just lose the game on the spot for arsenaling it if you know about it. But
sure, but you shouldn't have any of those cards in the mirror. But
yeah, I'm just gonna play Channel of the Bleak Expanse and Remembrance and Oasis Respite against you in the finals of the Calling in our Iyslander mirror.
Show me how it's done. All right.
I'm gonna walk away with the cold foil Crown of Providence, right? That's the one we're competing for this weekend.
I don't actually know.
I think so. I think that's what the still champion gold cold foil is.
Okay. Cool. It's been a while since I've played a calling.
Same. It'll be a while before we play a calling ever again.
I hope that's not true. I hope we have a calling before. I don't know, before
Yeah,
Baltimore.
maybe they'll announce like the Outsiders world premiere, and it'll be in like Columbus, Ohio. Everybody wants to go to Columbus, Ohio for a world premiere, right?
I want to go to Columbus, Ohio for a world premiere. I don't think I have everybody. I want to go anywhere that is not that far away from me. So
yeah, exactly. Chicago wouldn't be a bad place for them to have a world premiere.
Yeah, they upgrade the Min-Max tournament to a world premiere.
Oh, that is awkward. Maybe they don't want it in the Midwest. Poor Min-Max games.
They can just upgrade it. They could be like, yeah, your thing's actually a calling world premiere thing. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that's fair. So we've talked about some of the more known good and bad matchups that Icelander's facing. I guess we haven't really talked about Dash though. So you've said a lot that you think Iyslander is much worse in the Dash now, but can you go into kind of the reasons why?
Yeah. So the biggest reason that it was a tough matchup is Dash is very good at like spending however many resources she gets on a turn. With having several items she can like load or basically activate, she can usually spend whatever amount of resources she ends up with. She can spend that amount of resources. So your frostbites generally aren't particularly impactful against her. All of her cards block for 3 and are pretty interchangeable. So when you attack, she can easily just block with 2/3 blocks when you attack with like a Wounded Bull or Finals Fighting Spirit, and still play a pretty solid turn because of how flexible her weapons are in that regard. And Dash's biggest weakness is how quickly she burns through her deck. But the combination of having AB3 or AB4, depending on which gloves they play, and us not having a physical damage weapon, it's really hard to threaten to run her out of cards as Iyslander. So
yeah,
she can be like more lenient, more carefree with boosting things away, even activating her chess piece to banish 2 cards and gain an extra and go net +1 resource. Lets her just play like these super efficient turns against us over and over and over again. Without,
and then still end the game with like a bad end game for us with the pistol lock.
Mm-hmm. And so all those things combined just kind of lead to it being a pretty rough matchup. Our 2 saving graces are Channel Lake Frigid is extremely good against the pistols because to fire a pistol, it is 1 activation to load the pistol and 1 activation to fire the pistol, which are both getting taxed by channel. So it's 2 extra resources every time she fires the pistol. And then all of her other items also cost 1 additional to load and 1 additional to use. So if she wants to use the induction chamber to give the pistol go again, suddenly it's 2 extra resources to activate, to load and activate the induction chamber, plus the 2 extra resources to load and fire the pistol. You're looking at 6 resources to induction chamber plus pistol. Just
That's
once. Fair. And so, and Channel Lake Frigid is very, very good against pistol. It's great to have late in the game against Dash because hopefully she's through most of her big red attacks at that point, and then you channel and she has these items that is a big part of her endgame against us, but gets slowed down drastically by Channel Lake Frigid. Then the other card that's very good is Hypothermia. That card is banned. That card used to be a card you could wait till Dash has like a 4 or 5 card hand. She does some big boost attack. You play Hypothermia. She wastes 2, sometimes even 3 cards in her hand, depending on what her boost starting card was. Usually it's like 2 cards and a resource or 2 that she wastes. And that like plus card and a half of value of Hypothermia was often enough to swing the matchup. That's usually worth like 7 or 8 points of value off 1 card. So
yeah, absolutely.
Saving all that it makes sense that would swing a matchup, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think red Winter's Bite is good then? I guess like even if we're not casting it, even the opportunity to just try to keep Channel Lake Frigid like more turns around. I guess like how do you think casting that card against Dash will impact the matchup, and would you cut it?
So I don't think I would cut it because like Dash's average card is worth more than 3 points of damage just because all of Dash's cards are above rate. So I'd rather have Red Winter's Bite than just some random 3 block. So I think it makes sense. The fact that you can pitch it plus another ice card to keep your channel around for next turn is pretty valuable, especially like towards the end of first cycle where you're at reaching the end of your first cycle, but Dash is actually into her second cycle because of Dash's mechanics, how she just like gets through her first cycle faster. She'll have a lot more blues, but also so she'll have a lot less attacks, which makes Channel Lake Frigid very valuable at that point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Or I guess on the other side of things, a lot of times she casts a Spark of Genius, which once she casts her first Spark of Genius, her like blue density goes up because she's been pitching a bunch of blues and playing a bunch of reds. So when she shuffles after playing Spark of Genius, her blue density is higher too. And means she would be more reliant on using the pistol, which again means Channel Lake Frigid is quite good against her there.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Do you think any other matchups are significantly impacted by these bans?
Yeah, I think Dromai gets a lot harder without Hypothermia. Hypothermia was kind of your out to both the Mai and Chromai. If you had a Hypothermia in Arsenal when they played one of these scary dragons, you played a Hypothermia and they would get to attack you once or twice with the dragons, but that was it, rather than with their whole army of dragons. I think Command and Conquer will have spots that is reasonably better than Hypothermia would have been, and it'll have spots where you really wish you could have just arsenaled Hypothermia there. So,
yeah, that was a matchup that I think actually shakes out to be about the same with the inclusion of the extra poppers. So I don't know.
Sense. And then we also played Hypothermia against Briar. And I think that matchup is a little bit harder without it, but I still think that if Briar doesn't have a very good plan into Iyslander, a plan that we haven't found one that works really well, then it's still going to be a very tough matchup for Briar.
Yeah. Even with all my Iyslander rust, I've still been able to like easily cruise past all of the Briars and play testing so far. So that's been, kind of the whole reason why I transitioned back. So I went going from like 0-6 on Botlyn into Briar to like 5-1 into Briar. And that's like a much cleaner turnaround,
Yeah. And honestly, like I spent a lot of time looking for another hero to play. I played a bunch of games of Dromai. I played a bunch of games of Botlyn, but it seems like Briar is like kind of the consensus deck going into Indianapolis. And when that's the case, it just feels like we have a deck that counters Briar. We should probably just be playing it, right?
Yeah. And it's not like a deck that's like just folds against the rest of the field too. It definitely has some more challenging matchups, but kind of the most rewarding thing about Iyslander is that it gives you so much leverage to like have agency over the game, make meaningful decisions, and like give you spots for your opponent's misplay and for you to, I guess, like maximize the value of your deck. Mm-hmm. So I guess like that's also a reason to play it if you're already very comfortable on a deck like Iyslander. I don't think it's necessarily, if you've never touched a deck like Iyslander before this weekend, I don't think now would be the best time to just like take it into the calling and feel like you just can't ever lose to these Briars, because I don't think that's the case. But I still think overall, if like you're comfortable on the hero, it just seems like a very, I don't want to say like safe pick, but a safe pick.
So I guess one follow-up question. So we're talking about this all before Indianapolis. This episode is going to go up Friday reasonably. There's like 24 hours or so before deck lists are due at the point this episode is going to go up. Do you feel like, I guess, how much does it feel like us putting this out there hurts our odds of winning the tournament or doing well in the tournament?
Well, I'm going to go with my classic saying now at this point, where I feel like we can say Michael Hamilton's registering a ham sandwich for this calling, and he'd still do reasonably well and have a good shot at winning it. So I know other podcasts have talked about this in the past, like influencing the metagame and, all that stuff. But I'd still rather us, I guess, be like open and honest. Because this is the second time we're recording the podcast, and at the end of the last, I guess behind the scenes here a little bit. So earlier in the week on Tuesday night, we recorded the podcast, and before I had tested heavily into Briar, it was scheduled for like that evening into Wednesday, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm on Botlyn, I'm gonna crush this whole thing, and it was just like me just confidently still saying that I'm happy with Botlyn. I feel really good about it. And then the playtesting session happened, and I'm like, oops, we need to find some time and re-record this podcast. So here we are. And so even if I was locked on Botlyn, I would have happily and confidently said that. And at the end of the day, just because we have a platform, we either have the choice to like lie to people and say like bad information and what we're like actively like, I guess like either way, we're manipulating the metagame, right? If we say what we don't think, we're manipulating the metagame in a certain direction. If people listen to what we say, and if we say what we think, where we could be manipulating the metagame one way or another. So I'd rather us just be honest about how we feel and what we're thinking about going into an event like the Calling. I think additionally, you know, it matters more so like this kind of information for an event like before a Pro Tour. Like I would not be comfortable like with us talking like this openly before like and putting this out like the day before Pro Tour or something like that. But you know, it's just a big open event. I think there'll still be a lot of people there who don't listen to us that we can meet and talk to and hopefully, you know, grow the game that way. And if somebody wants to, you know, take their deck that destroys Iyslander because they heard Michael Hamilton and was on the deck that weekend, like good for them. They still have to get through the rest of the field. At the end of the day, we're still just two players.
Mm-hmm. Fair. I like all that. And I do think I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing this stuff before like a Pro Tour. I think a Calling being like several levels. I guess it's just like one. The next level up is a Pro Tour from a Calling, but this kind of feels like the line where I feel like comfortable sharing the stuff beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then
yeah, and the field of Pro Tours are so much smaller that like this information is more powerful. But like in a bigger field, like the more open it is, the less this kind of stuff matters, right?
Yeah, that's fair too. And then additionally, like since joining the Wolf Pack, I felt like I want to be careful with what we share and put out there because I don't want to put out like if Bodee spends or Bodee or Zach spends forever and comes up with this perfect Briar list. I wouldn't. That's not really ours to share, if that makes sense. But like this Iyslander deck feels like we've been working on it. We're the ones playing Iyslander in Indianapolis. I don't think anyone else on the team is. I guess that might be a spoiler. That isn't really. I don't know, but
and ultimately, it's not even that different from your Worlds list, though. Like, it's like not.
It's not.
It's not like we completely redefined the deck and took out all of the attack actions and put in a bunch of like freezing points and what's the one that Eisenhall Weather Veins, and we went all in on the combo or anything like that. Like we're still just playing the same old deck.
No, there will be a metagame for combo Iyslander. This just isn't it.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable trying to take one combo deck that folded to Briar and then trying to take a second combo deck that would then also die horribly to Briar.
But think about it. This one has good disruption for Briar, and you can sit around and you set up your frost hexes and you give her frost bites, and then you die. And then, like, if you lived 6 more turns, and eventually you'd combo kill her.
Yeah, because like the games against Briar still end. Like even when you're disrupting her, she's still like, okay, nimblism, snatch for 7, and you look at your hand and you're like, oh,
block with my Eisenhall Weather Vein.
Yeah, like it's not like Iyslander is a deck that like blocks amazingly well. You don't have a fridge to just like stuff attacks like repeatedly throughout to help with these breakpoints a lot.
You're missing 4 life.
At some point, you need to like take turns off to like actually set up your combo pieces, play like these insidious chills and frost hexes that cost a lot of resources to do, and Briar's going to punish you hard for doing turns like that. And it's also set like at the end of the game, I guess you're playing at instant speed, so that helps a little bit, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot to ask to like play your Eisenhall Weather Vein at instant speed with your. Can you even do that? I think it's just an ice card, right? It's not even a nice wizard card.
Yeah, so. You can't play the Eisenhower at instant speed.
Yeah, so this whole deck is just already falling apart in theory.
I think the idea is you play it on your turn. Then you cast Ice Eternal.
How do you get through Briar's turn cycle at the end of the game?
No, you have 20 life to spare to no blocks everything. And then you go Tunic, Eisenhall Weather Vein, play Ice Eternal.
Are we playing E-Pots against Briar now too?
Yeah,
No
E-Pots.
blocks.
So
Yeah, just some
so
sweet
we
no
go
blocks in our
we go
deck.
Eisenhower Weathervane, Ice Eternal for like 4. You fuse it. You trigger your ice. What's the card called? Insidious Chill. Strip their hand, so they can't clear all these Frostbites. So then they have 8 Frostbites to take 8 damage. They got multiple Frost X's in play. You pitch your ice card to swing Waning Moon, and then you arsenal your freezing point. And then on their turn, you Storm Stride as your freezing point. Boom.
Get them. Just that easy. I don't know. I'm changing my deck list right now. Here I go. Eisenhower, Weathervane, freezing point. Okay, done. Fixed deck.
All right. The other combo, you can play the Ice Sigil. So Briar goes Snatch, and you go Ice Sigil.
Sigil of Permafrost?
Yeah, Sigil of Permafrost. And then I don't know what you do after that, but you do something, and you have Frost X's in play. Boom. Dead Briar.
Then you play like your Frosting from Arsenal, give them a Frostbite, activate your Waning Moon, give them more Frostbites, and then you...
and they take a bunch of Frost X damage. The end.
Yeah, because you spend a bunch of time casting these Frost Hexes against them because you had a bunch of time, because Briar's a very slow deck that doesn't kill you very quickly.
Exactly. You understand.
Yeah, why are we trying to like race and play like this tempo game when it's just this easy,
Yeah. You just disrupt her and she doesn't kill you anymore, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're about to say something though?
I don't even remember.
Okay. Well, I think before this podcast goes any more off the rails, we should start wrapping things up then. Do you have any concluding thoughts about, I guess, the calling, Iyslander, or life in general, Michael?
No.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm glad you gave it a good think. I'm good. And, if you see us over the weekend in the calling, come up, say hi, bring your baby. Michael will happily sign it for $20.
I'm not signing baby. Oh, wait, $20.
Yeah, they pay you $20 and you sign their baby. That's your rate, right? Or have you upped it? Is it $30 now? Is there a world champion premium on the baby signing? Okay, well, negotiate with him in real time. He's a reasonable guy overall when you see him at the calling over the weekend. And yeah, next time you see us at the calling in Indianapolis, always remember, mind your manners. Thanks for watching.